Hello and what's up, GSC Pokemon Challenges fam? How you guys doing? We are back, episode 2 of the Jasmine, Chuck, and Pryce section of this minimum battle series. I am putting them in that order based on what I think is actually going to be the difficulty of these 3 gym leaders. And last time we got through with basically everything. It kind of made sense. All of the Pokemon that we were using in the last episode were Gen 1 starters, and they're all in the medium slow level up group, so they get plenty of levels. Plus, I mean, we're dealing with water and fire types. I think those are 2 of the better typings for this section of the game, and we will be continuing a little bit of that today as we go into the Gen 2 starters. We're coming in with Meganium, Quilava, and Typhlosion, and Croconaw and Feraligatr, but we've also thrown in a little bit of a wild card for this one. We're gonna take our Butterfree and see how that Pokemon does. Now for today, I will be skipping member picks, but it is worth noting that while we have 30 member picks showing up there are actually 37 channel members now. There are a bunch of new folks. I'm going to be getting you guys registered and ready to go, so get your picks to me in the website when you can. Anyway, without further ado, let's get to the action today, and I'm actually going to lead off with Meganium. We're going to come back and look at that Butterfree just a little bit later, but let's get into these Gen 2 starters first and just see how they go in this section. Now, Meganium, I honestly think might be the most sus of these starters. We've got Razor Leaf, Mud Slap, Synthesis, and Headbutt on the moveset right now. I'm not sure if we're going to reach the point of learning Body Slam via level up in this section or not, at least not in time for anything super important. And while we can learn some TMs, we're talking like Fury Cutter here, and of course Iron Tail after Jasmine, there aren't actually that many good TMs for us to learn. And because this is a grass type that does not come with a sleep move, this actually could turn out to be a pretty hard Pokemon to get through this section. I'm really just gonna have to see. But I do think this is a Pokemon that definitely needs to go to the Rocket Hideout first to gain some levels, because we don't have resistances really against anything. Our best matchup will be Pryce, just because Razor Leaf will be super effective against all of his Pokemon, but that still doesn't make me super confident in this, since we are also weak to ice. We're going to be struggling to find good moves against a lot of the other trainers as well. I imagine Chuck is not going to be terrible, but Jasmine could be really tough, since technically those 2 Magnemites resist everything that we could throw at them. This is a Pokemon that I really think would like to have Hidden Power Ground. For now though, we will just stick with our standard meta. We're going to come here and get this Gyarados and move on to the Rocket Hideout. Now, in fact, we do learn Body Slam while we're in the Rocket Hideout. I am going to learn this move. I'm going to replace Headbutt with Body Slam. We could always relearn Headbutt if we really need flinches, but I think the King's Rock could effectively do the same thing for us. So I'm just going to put this move on instead, have the chance to paralyze opponents, and that will give us at least another way that we could potentially get through a really tough fight. And of course, all of the random rockets posed no issue for us here, so we just get to the final rocket encounter where we have to fight this executive, and let's just see how this actually goes. First up, she leads off with the Arbok. I'm going to go Body Slam here. Does over half as she goes for a Leer after that, so we just knock it out in 2. Gloom is out next. Body Slam is our best move against this Pokemon. It's still going to be a 2-hitter as it drops acid on us, but we easily beat it in 2 hits as well. And now the Murkrow. We're faster and we hit the Body Slam. Peck did decent damage, but we still knock it out on the next hit. That fight was never in question. The entire Rocket section was just a bunch of easy levels. Now, it's worth noting that in the last episode, I mentioned that I could just use the Gyarados to knock out these 3 Electrodes to avoid XP. The other thing that I can do that actually makes things a little bit faster is just to give myself Master Balls. I'm just doing this for convenience and for saving time in this series, and basically to avoid getting a little bit of extra XP. I heard a lot of people saying, well, since you have to go up against the Electrodes anyway, why not just knock them out and get XP? The reason that I'm not doing that is because of the fact that it's XP. I'm really trying to keep the experience points at a minimum for this run. So if I have the option to run away or to catch something, I'm going to go that route instead of taking the fight and getting a little bit of experience. It might not matter in the late game, but here at this point, that could be the difference between gaining 1 additional level and not gaining that level. and that could sometimes be the difference between getting through a really tough fight or not getting through. But now with that section done, I'm going to go ahead and try Pryce one time, just on the basis that Razor Leaf is super effective and Blizzard has a decent chance to miss in this generation. If this were Gen 1 and you were using Blizzard, I'd think we would get crushed 100% of the time, but since this is Gen 2 and they nerfed it, maybe we have a chance. Let's get into it and find out. So first up, Pryce leads off with his Seal. I'm going to go for the Razor Leaf, and we do not get a one-hit KO without a crit. We get a speed drop from the Icy Wind, and then he uses Rest after we miss our second Razor Leaf. Still, we're going to knock this Pokemon out on the next turn. Body Slam's probably the way to go there, if I'm being perfectly honest. This time we get a critical hit on Dugong, and it still survives with a Sliver, so we're going to Body Slam to knock it out the next turn. We've made it to Piloswine. We can go Synthesis to heal up here. It hits the Blizzard and freezes us solid. So yeah, we're basically dead on this one because we couldn't move. Still, that's kind of nice to know that Blizzard's only doing about half here, so we have at least a reasonable chance of getting through, I think. This time he misses the Icy Wind and we just Body Slam down the Seal. Now that I know that even with a critical hit, Razor Leaf isn't one-shotting here, I'm going to go Body Slam first. We get a nice crit with that and paralyze the Dugong. And now I'm just going to go Synthesis in order to heal up, and then we'll just Razor Leaf this one down. I could have just spammed Synthesis until it was fully paralyzed, but I'm going to see how we do against the Piloswine here. We get a nice Blizzard miss after hitting the first Razor Leaf. He Hyper Potions, but the second Razor Leaf crits and we just win. So it is possible, not even unreasonable, to get through with a Meganium here. I think weaker grass types might struggle just on the basis that they might not be doing enough damage, especially if they don't have the critical hit chance of that Razor Leaf. But with the Razor Leaf, it is possible to get through and we're able to move on. So now I think the obvious play is to go and take on Chuck's gym, just because they don't have any Pokemon that resist our stab move in Razor Leaf. And we can also go for Body Slam strats in order to paralyze things. That could be reasonable. I'm just not very confident basically in the Mud Slap strats when we get to Jasmine's Magnemites. That might not work out. So I think this routing is probably for the best. Now we've already gone to the Lighthouse, so there's no need to go back and rehash that whole section. So we're literally just going straight down to Cyanwood, and hopefully this is enough to get through. Now, first things first, we do have to get through the Black Belt Bros. The fact that we can heal is kind of important in battle. I think we'll make this one pretty reasonable, but let's just see how this actually goes. Razor Leaf didn't do that much. I'm going to give a Body Slam to try to get paralysis, and Body Slam does way more damage because of their lower defense. So Body Slam is the play here against these Hitmons from the looks of it. So let's try that strategy. Body Slam right there paralyzes the Hitmonchan, is fully paralyzed, and we knock it out on the next turn. So the Black Belt Bros were no problem, and we're ready to move on towards the gym leader. And ultimately, we do make very quick work of all of those trainers, so we're ready for Chuck himself. And I actually think this one's not going to be too bad. The Primeape on the last trainer wasn't doing that much to us, and as long as we get through Primeape, I think that the Razor Leaf will do the job against that Poliwrath, but let's see if it actually works out. So Chuck attempt number 1. In this case, the special defense is actually higher on Primeape than the defense. So I'm going to go for the Body Slam here. We get a nice damage range there, so it's just 2 hits from Body Slam to take that one out. Now there's nothing to do other than Razor Leaf on the Poliwrath. We get a critical hit one-shot. So just like that, we get to level 35 and we have beaten our 6th gym leader. Really not too bad, and it makes me feel pretty confident moving forward, but Jasmine could change that really, really quick. We do have the advantage, of course, that we have Mud Slap on our moveset though, and that should at least make Jasmine more manageable. This is likely a good spot to throw on the Paralyzed Cure Berry, something that I haven't been able to do in my recent runs when we've been running special held items like that Lucky Punch Chansey that we just did last week. If you didn't check that one out, it was a heck of a lot of fun. But here it's going to be kind of nice to actually use the appropriate held items in order to make some of these fights more reasonable. And honestly, for these next 2 gym leaders, the Paralyzed Cure Berry is the way to go, at least in my opinion. because I think a lot of Pokemon are just going to be looking for that 1 or 2 extra opportunities to get through. If we're using Mud Slap strats and it's like a 2-hit KO here on the Magnemites, then really we just need 1 miss due to the Mud Slaps and 1 additional heal of paralysis, and we can probably get to the Steelix on full health. That's my guess. We're going to see if it actually works out that way. Still, there's only one way to find out, so let's save the game and get into the Jasmine fight. Jasmine, attempt number 1, she leads off with the Magnemite. I'm going Mud Slap. It does over half. We get a Thunder Wave miss, and we knock it out on the next turn. Steelix actually comes out next. Now, Steelix has much lower special defense, and since it is a steel ground type, I mean, Razor Leaf is basically as good as it's going to get here. It's not going to be a one-hitter by any means, but we did decent damage, and 1 crit would guarantee that we just get through in 2 hits here. Because our defense has been lowered, of course, Iron Tail is doing a lot of damage. I'm going to have to heal up with Synthesis here. We get a nice Iron Tail miss there, and a crit to knock that Pokemon out, so that brings out the final Magnemite. To go Mud Slap, it goes for the Thunder Wave, but we have the Paralyzed Cure Berry, and we just knock it out the next turn. So Meganium, granted this is max DVs, but it does manage to get through Jasmine on minimum battles. And of course, all comes down to that Mud Slap still being on our moveset in order to deal with those Magnemites. I'm pretty sure without that move, the Magnemites would have been a wall there. At least with paralysis, that would have been much harder, but hey, we managed to get the job done. So with Meganium joining the pass column, now I want to get to a Pokemon that I'm really not sure about. I'm not sure how it's going to go. Let's go away from Johto for a second and look at our Butterfree. Butterfree, of course, has a lot of weaknesses here, and its stab typings are not going to be good. We may be able to get through Chuck easier than any of the other gym leaders, but even that's not going to necessarily be a layup here with this Pokemon, given its low stats. So I'm really interested to see how this one actually goes. Of course, we finished the last section running Confusion, Whirlwind, Nightmare, and Sleep Powder. Via level up, we'll get to Gust. I'm not sure if a medium fast Pokemon gets to Psybeam here, at least not in any reasonable time. Keep in mind, we were like level 35 with that Meganium just before, so probably not getting to Gust if I have to guess. And that honestly doesn't leave us with a lot of TMs to use. I'm not really going to go Attract strats most of the time. 1, because I kind of feel that it's a cheesy move, but 2, because it's going to be insanely inconsistent. Like, I think there's a lot of spots where, because we're running Max DV's Pokemon, we're generally going to be male, and a lot of the toughest opponents are also going to be male Pokemon, and there's not much we can do about it. Still, because we do have a Psychic type move, I think we're going to have a decent chance against all of the Rockets in the hideout. So let's just go ahead and see if we can gain a bunch of extra levels. What level do these medium fast Pokemon get through this section at? And then we're probably going to have to go Chuck first if I have to guess. And Butterfree is one of our first Pokemon that could actually struggle to get through Jed in the Rocket hideout on the basis that his Pokemon resist Confusion, our only damage dealing move. So we really need Nightmare strats to take these Pokemon down. Now we do get a level up and learn Gust here. I'm just going to learn this over Whirlwind. I think this is the best play. At least we have some type coverage here, and Gust is at least a same type move. Not sure how useful it's actually going to be though. Now fortunately we do get through Jed thanks to some pretty good sleep luck there. But again, we could see spots where that fight isn't perfectly consistent as we go further on. Nightmare strats might really help some Pokemon though. Still, after Jed, Butterfree does make its way all the way to the end of the Rocket section, and we're able to take on this last executive. Here, Confusion is a 2-hit KO on Arbok as it just uses Wrap against us, so really nothing to worry about there. Murkrow could be a problem. I'm going to put this Pokemon to sleep and Nightmare it, and then we're going to have to go into Gust since it's going to be immune to our Psychic type moves. Still, a couple Gusts with the Nightmare on does take that Pokemon down. I'm just going to Sleep Powder the Gloom just to be safe. Let's just see what Gust does. It's a 2-hit KO as she drops Acid on us, but we managed to get through nice and easy. Even Butterfree has no issue getting through this Rocket hideout section. Now, the only logic I can think of for going to take on Pryce first is just that his Pokemon are slow. So theoretically, we could put them to sleep sleep and then use Nightmare strats on them. It's only because of Nightmare that I'm even going to attempt this one time here though. Otherwise, I think going to Chuck would be the correct play with this Pokemon. So here against Pryce's Seal, I'm going to go Sleep Powder first. I'm going to throw on the Nightmare. It wakes up in Aurora Beams, but Aurora Beam from Seal really doesn't do that much. Still, it wakes up immediately and hits us with a couple of Aurora Beams, and we can see we're already down to about half health. Once it stays asleep though, we should at least have a chance, but this Pokemon just refuses to stay asleep. We finally managed to knock it down, but we're all the way down on low yellow health, and we're gonna have to Nightmare this Dugong and just hope that it stays asleep enough turns to give us a chance. We do confuse it while it's asleep, so if it wakes up, we have a chance that it will hit itself in confusion like that, allowing us to knock that Pokemon out. We've made it to Piloswine on the first attempt. We sleep this Pokemon, we Nightmare it, and we just need it to stay asleep here. We go Confusion, it gets confused and hits itself in confusion. That gives us a chance to put it back to sleep and reset up the Nightmare. And now we just really are praying that it doesn't wake up. It does wake up and hit the Blizzard, and we lose. So it's pretty clear that we need basically perfect luck on that fight in order to get it to go at our current level. So I'm going to simply backtrack out of this gym and make my way to Chuck, which I think is going to be a much easier fight. First up, we've got to get through the Black Belt Bros though, so let's just see how this fight goes. Against the Hitmonlee, I'm definitely going to put it to sleep, and because it has lower defense, I'm actually going to go for Gust here. It's an easy 2-hit KO on the Hitmonlee. That brings out the Hitmonchan, which we're going in on full health, so we should have a pretty decent chance here. I'm going to still put it to sleep just to avoid any weird status from its elemental punches, but once again, Gust gets the easy 2-hit KO, and we've knocked that Pokemon out. So barring any sort of like bad luck here, as long as we sleep these Pokemon, I think we get through just fine. And sure enough, we get through the other randos with no difficulty at all, and it's on to Chucky Boy himself. Let's try to get our 5th gym badge. Now, of course, Chuck leads off with his Primeape. I think Sleep Powder is the play here. Then we're simply going to go Confusion, which is going to 2-shot this Pokemon. And with that one going down, we can now make our way to the Poliwrath, which again, I think we need to put to sleep. We're going to Nightmare this Pokemon. We have to keep it asleep though. Of course, he does have a full heal for this. When he wakes up, Surf did decent damage, but not too much. We still have a decent chance of getting through. Now he goes Mind Reader on us though, so we miss a Sleep Powder that turn. We keep putting him to sleep, but he keeps immediately waking up. And then he hits the Hypnosis, Mind Reader into Dynamic Punch. Of course, Dynamic Punch isn't going to do a lot to us, given the fact that we are 4 times resistant to his move, but we can see that we go down on the first attempt from knocking ourselves out in confusion. The Mind Reader strats are a potential problem here, as well as him not staying asleep. So we're going to have to get a lot better luck than that if we're going to get through Chuck here. So next attempt back to the Poliwrath, we miss the first Sleep Powder. I'm just going to go Confusion after that. He hits the Hypnosis. There's really not much we can do. And now he's just using Surf to whittle us down while we basically have not enough HP. So we lose to Chuck twice in a row there. This time we do land the Sleep Powder on the 3rd attempt. Then we miss a Sleep Powder, but he used a full heal that turn, so we were able to put him back to sleep. He just keeps immediately waking back up. You'd almost think he has like an ability that keeps him from staying asleep or something. Still, this time he finally does stay asleep. We've got the Nightmare on, and we knock him out on the 3rd attempt. Still, that makes me a little bit nervous because I expected that to be the easiest of the gyms, given that we 4 times resist fighting type moves and we have sleep and we're faster than everything. Turns out that that still is a pretty tough spot. So now I'm going to deliver the secret potion here very quickly to Jasmine, but I do think Pryce is our next best shot of progressing in this challenge with our Butterfree. We only tried it one time that last time. We did manage to get to the Piloswine with better luck. We could have gotten that one to go. So I think that that is the play. Jasmine, I just expect to be kind of tough here. So let's try Pryce attempt number 2. Now, after having beaten Chuck and gained a couple levels, we still missed the Sleep Powder here. He gets an Icy Wind on this. But after that, we do put this Seal to sleep, and Seal has lower defense. I'm going to go for Gust just to see what it does. And it is doing enough damage that we managed to get through Seal with a couple Gusts after we get the Sleep and Nightmare. Of course, the Icy Wind means that we're slower than Dugong here. so that's kind of an issue, but I'm going to go for the Gust while it's asleep and under the effect of Nightmare, and it does go down. We get to level 33 as the Piloswine comes out. We put it to sleep the first turn. Of course, we're going the Nightmare strats. It immediately wakes up, but it misses a Blizzard. That was perfect, and that means we can put it back to sleep. And this Pokemon has lower special defense, so I'm going for the Confusion here. He Hyper Potions on his Piloswine, but he's still taking the Nightmare damage. He wakes up, he misses another Blizzard. Now we get a Nightmare this Pokemon once again, and we have finally won against Pryce. Was it pretty? No, we had to get 2 misses from Blizzard there in order to get that one to go. I'm pretty sure a Blizzard at least would have had a chance to knock us out. So yeah. Your mileage is definitely going to vary with this Max DV's Butterfree, but it does manage to get 2 Jasmine on minimum battles. The only reason that I think we have any shot here is because of the Nightmare strats. If we did not have Nightmare, I'm guaranteeing 100% that this Butterfree is just done right here on Jasmine. And this is kind of the interesting point. In a lot of runs, people don't go back and get the Nightmare TM, and we're finding that Nightmare is actually one of the most OP moves available in Gen 2 for a lot of these Pokemon on minimum battles. So if Nightmare gets us through here, we're going to be able to say at least that there's a decent chance for Pokemon that learn that move to actually progress to Claire, which will be pretty insane. But then again, this might just turn out to be super inconsistent because of those Magnemites. So I think we have to give the Paralyzed Cure Berry here just because there is a decent chance that she's going to use Thunder Wave, and we're really hoping that she does if she manages to wake up or if we miss a Sleep Powder. That will effectively give us 1 additional turn to have a chance to knock her out. So let's just see how Butterfree goes here. Of course, we're going to be faster than the Magnemite. We do put it to sleep. Now we can go Nightmare, and now we just don't have anything really good to use. So Confusion, I think, is the play. It wakes up, it hits the Thunder Wave on us. We're going to have to put this Pokemon back to sleep. We really need these Magnemites to stay asleep for a lot of turns so that we can knock them out with Nightmare strats. We do get through the first Magnemite. We're to the second one. We go Nightmare here, and we just needed to stay asleep for at least 4 turns. We get a nice critical hit from Confusion though, so that actually allows us to take it out in 3, which is very nice. Now we've made it to the Steelix. Steelix obviously has lower special defense, but we're not really even relying on that. We're going for Nightmare 100% of the way. She will use a Hyper Potion here. There's nothing that we can do to avoid that. So it's entirely about whether or not we can keep this Steelix asleep enough turns. And if it does wake up, we're hoping that it doesn't knock us out with the Iron Tail. Now, Confusion did allow us to get this Steelix confused, but it doesn't matter. We actually get enough turns of that Pokemon staying asleep to knock it out with the Nightmare strats, plus the chip damage effectively from our Confusion. And now we get to level 34 where we can learn Psybeam. That's obviously just a huge upgrade on Confusion. We're just going to slap it on over that move. And Butterfree, by the skin of its teeth really, and by the luck of just giving all of these gym leaders nightmares, has managed to progress in the minimum battles series. That was not pretty. It definitely looked pretty close in some spots, but it gets the job done. So now with Butterfree joining the Pass Call-Up, I think we can start to feel kind of good about any Pokemon that gets Sleep plus Nightmare. We're just finding that that set is completely OP. It makes me want to go back and redo my Cleffa run. Maybe for my son's Christmas present or something, I'll go back and redo that one because we did not use Nightmare strats in that one, and we have found that Cleffa is actually massively overperforming thanks to Nightmare. But as teams get bigger and as gym leaders start to use things like Hyper Potions in battle, Nightmare strats are going to be more sus than they've been previously. We're kind of lucky that all of these gym leaders only have 2 or 3 Pokemon on their teams. Claire might just flip that all on its head and start to prove that those Nightmare strats aren't all they were cracked up to be. For now though, Butterfree is through. It's time to get to the last of our Gen 2 starters. We're going to look at the Typhlosion and the Feraligatr and then step down to their less evolved forms, assuming that they get through. And let's just see how these Pokemon go. So first up, we've got Typhlosion. We're coming in with Fire Punch, Quick Attack, Thunder Punch, and Mud Slap. Thunder Punch could be really important for that Poliwrath. So we're definitely going to be running something similar to this moveset as we go forward. Flame Wheel will come in as a level up move, but honestly, Fire Punch might just be better, so I don't know if we're ever going to learn that move. We can obviously upgrade Quick Attack if we want to, and here Mud Slap strats aren't nearly as important because of the fact that we could learn Dig if we want to, but Fire Punch is already going to be more than enough for those Magnemites, I think. So this is one where I think we can take on Pryce nice and early. I think we can also take on Jasmine nice and early. Chuck is theoretically the hardest one for us, but that Thunder Punch might make that a moot point. It's also worth noting we did not go to the Lighthouse previously with this Pokemon, so we're actually going to be taking a few more battles as we go through this section. Still, I'm going to start off with the Rocket Hideout because I expect it to be super easy, and then we'll backtrack down towards Cyanwood. And now as we come to the final Rocket Executive here, I know this is going to be a cakewalk fight, so let's just get into it. Of course, she leads off with the Arbok. I'm just going to go Fire Punch here. It nearly gets the one-hit KO. It's a two-hitter, but we'll just Mud Slap to finish that one off. We could learn Flame Wheel here. I'm not going to learn this move. I think that the Fire Punch is the way to go. Out next comes Murkrow. We're going to go Fire Punch. I actually should have gone Thunder Punch, but it doesn't matter. It's a one-hit KO, and Fire Punch destroys Gloom, of course. So we got through that fight nice and easy, no questions about it, and we're ready to move on in the game. And now I will make my way straight to Pryce. We've already seen Fire types be able to take him on, but we have the added advantage that for the first two Pokemon, the Seal and the Dugong, we can just go Thunder Punch, and while it's not a same type move, it's still going to be super effective and pretty strong, so I expect this to be pretty easy, but let's get into it and find out. First up, of course, we've got the Seal. Let's just see what that Thunder Punch does. It is not quite a one-hitter. It was very close, but we'll just Quick Attack to knock it out from there. Dugong comes out next. We'll Thunder Punch. This is going to be a two-hitter, but we easily take that Pokemon down. And finally, we're to Piloswine. We're just going to go for the Fire Punch since it's stab and super effective, and we get a nice one-hit KO. So Pryce really never had a chance there as we completely destroy his entire team. And the fact that he's not smart enough to use water type moves when he's got a couple of water type Pokemon is the real reason why we were able to get through that so darn easily. I think if you gave Pryce Surf on at least the Dugong, he would at least be harder to get through. And really, he should be rocking Ice Beam, I feel like, on that Piloswine to really give himself a chance of defeating the player. Fortunately, though, he's just not that good. But now as we head down south, I am going to make my way through the Lighthouse very quickly since we're going to need to get the fetch quest anyway, and that will gain us possibly another level before we even have to go down towards Chucky Boy. And as we make our way to Cyanwood, I am going to try to fight the randos inside of Chuck's gym, just because I don't think they're going to be too bad. But after that, I think that going back to Jasmine is the way to go. First up, of course, we've got to take on the Hitmonlee. There's nothing better than Fire Punch here. We even burned this Pokemon, so it's an easy two-hit KO. Even with their higher special defense, Fire Punch with the same type attack bonus is pretty strong. But then we get frozen by the Hitmonchan, but then we defrost and just knock it out the next turn. If this were Gen 1, we could have legitimately gotten a loss there just due to getting frozen, but fortunately Gen 2 does allow you to thaw out. Fortunately, nothing else here is really proving to be an issue at all. Like, I'm playing with the speed up just to make this go faster, but we're basically one-shotting everything. But with that, I am going to backtrack really quickly. Let's go back to Olivine and just take on Jasmine first, and then we can come back and try Chucky Boy himself. So I'm going to go into Jasmine without even any held items because I honestly don't think I need them. Let's just see how this fight goes. In fact, I didn't even heal coming into this, but we're still on green health. Fire Punch gets an easy one-shot on the first Magnemite. Steelix comes out next. We go Fire Punch and just destroy it in a single hit. As we get to level 35, the second Magnemite never stood a chance. Typhlosion was way too powerful for Jasmine, and we're ready to move on to the final gym in this section. Let's see if we can manage to take Chuck down. Now, I will not be as foolish as not healing before this one, because Surf I expect to do really good damage. We're just going to have to see if we can get this to go, but I expect we'll get through, especially with the Thunder Punch. to just see how consistent it actually is. So Chuck attempt number 1 against the Primeape. Obviously Fire Punch is the play. We get the 1-hit KO. Poliwrath is out next. Thunder Punch does well over half. We do get put to sleep after that though, and then Surf is doing pretty good damage. We're gonna have to wake up pretty darn quick if we're gonna have a shot, and no, we get knocked out on the first attempt. Still, Hypnosis hitting was pretty lucky there, so honestly, if we just give ourselves a Mint Berry, we should get through this one just fine. So let's try Chuck attempt number 2 here. I'm going to go for the Fire Punch, which just destroys the Primeape yet again. Now back to Thunder Punch. He goes Mind Reader this time, and that just allows us to easily win. Chuck never really stood a chance. Mint Berry is the strat there though, because obviously if he tries to put you to sleep, you're just going to wake up the next turn, and that's all you actually need to make that one pretty darn consistent. So that of course leads to Feraligatr that is running Bite, Fury Cutter, Rage, and Water Gun. I'm basically just going to replace Water Gun with Surf here because we already know we're going to need it later on. In fact, when I have these water types, I didn't get a Surf user, so this is just the standard play. We did it with Blastoise earlier, so I think this is perfectly fair. Let's just make our way over to the Rocket Hideout, get the easy levels, then honestly we could take things on in any order that we want. I still think Pryce is going to be super easy since we resist ice type moves, and Jasmine really shouldn't be too bad with this fully evolved water type. We're going to be much more worried when we get to less evolved water types that don't have as much special attack, at which point we could have trouble there. And of course we get to the final executive with no issues here. We go Surf on the Arbok. It's a 2-hit KO, but still I think this is perfectly fine. Just going to go Rage right there. Gloom, we don't really have anything great, so I think Bite is the play, and Absorb is doing pretty decent damage, but it goes down in 3 hits, so no problem there. Finally, we've got the Murkrow. Surf is a 1-hit KO, and we've defeated that executive with no problems whatsoever. So now with that whole section done, the real question is just, do we need another move to be able to get through the Pryce fight consistently, just given that we basically only got Rage and Fury Cutter as like decent neutral moves here? I'm going to try the Fury Cutter strat and the Rage strat here just to see, because just don't expect the Aurora Beams or Icy Winds to really do that much, and even Headbutt's probably not that scary given that we're pretty fast, but let's see how this actually goes. So first attempt here, I'm going to try just to see what different moves do. Surf here did 25 damage, so it's going to be a 4-hit KO. Maybe depends on the range here against the Seal. So I'm going to just switch into Rage now, where every time he headbutts me, I'm just going to build my Rage and just let that help me do more damage to his Pokemon. So we managed to get through Seal just fine with the Rage strats. We're going to continue on Dugong. We did get a speed drop, which is why it's moving first here and hitting the headbutts, but that is building up our Rage more. So we do get a knockout Dugong once we finally move. We get to level 32 as Piloswine comes out. We're just sticking with Rage. We did about half. Blizzard does not do that much, and we simply knock it out after that. So Pryce was never an issue because of the fact that we had Rage and we resisted his ice type moves. He just couldn't deal enough damage to really pose a threat. Now, once again with Feraligatr, we are benefiting from the medium slow level up group, which allows us to get more levels than we normally would. And that should give us a pretty decent chance of getting through Jasmine. I think we're going to be at a high enough level to just knock out her Magnemites with the Surf. And then we know that Steelix is basically going to be a cakewalk from there. This is another Pokemon that we did not take to the Lighthouse yet though, so we are going to have to take a few battles here before we can go down to Cyanwood and get the secret potion. But I honestly think Jasmine is the easier of the gym leaders, and then we'll go and take on Chuck finally. But before I go back up to Jasmine, I am going to test out how we do against Chuck here, just because honestly Rage strats might be enough to get through Chuck. We'll just have to see. First up though, we've got to take on the Hitmonlee and Hitmonchan. Surf does over half, so we can simply knock that Pokemon out on the next turn. That brings up the Hitmonchan, where I'm just going to stick with Surf strats here just because it's so much stronger than the rest of my moves, and Thunder Punch doesn't do that much, so we easily get through the Black Belt brothers with no issue. game. And with that, we get through to Chucky Boy himself with no problems. So I think a quick heal is in order, but then I'm just going to try and see if I can get through with the rage strats here. So Chuck, attempt number 1, let's go. I'm really hoping for Fury Swipes from this first Primeape as a way to build up my rage. Here we don't do that much, we get a Karate Chop and a Karate Chop the next turn, so we're just knocking Primeape out in 3 turns. That brings out the Poliwrath, which I'm going to go Rage. It goes Dynamic Punch and confuses me, but that builds my rage a little bit more, and as long as we don't hit ourselves, we easily knock him out on the next turn, thanks to snapping out of confusion. So while he hit 2 Dynamic Punches, it was not enough to stop Feraligatr, and we're ready to move on in the game. Still, that could be a spot where Croconaw struggles. It might just not have the stats in order to get through there. I'm honestly not sure, but for now, let's just take our Feraligatr back to Jasmine and see if we easily get through her now in her gym. Now for Jasmine, I think water types all come down to just whether or not they one-shot against those Magnemites with the Surf. If they do, I think this is a free win. If they don't, then we could potentially have problems, but let's get into it and find out. So Jasmine, attempt number 1, we go Surf on the first Magnemite. That is a one-hit KO. Second Magnemite is going to get more of the same action, and that brings out Steelix, where we have a super effective move in Surf, so we just get the one shot and we've defeated Jasmine at level 35. So Feraligatr joins that winners column. It's ready to move on to the Claire section of the game. Before Claire, of course, we have the entire Goldenrod storyline that I think is just going to gain a ton of levels for Pokemon. Really, Rival 4 might be an issue for some, but most Pokemon that got through Rival 3 are gonna do just fine there because he doesn't lead off with the Haunter anymore, and that gives them the chance to get through without the curse being on the entire battle. Still, it will be interesting to see. For now, Feraligatr's through. Let's step down to the unevolved forms. Let's check in on our Quilava. Now, of course, Quilava is kind of different than Typhlosion, with the massive difference being that this Pokemon doesn't learn elemental punches, even though it appears to be up on its hind legs in the Gen 2 sprite. When you look at the black and white sprite up in the top left, of course, it's a quadruped, so there's definitely a situation going on here where it looks like, based on the Gen 2 sprite, it should be able to maybe learn elemental punches the same as its evolved form, whereas later sprites make it much more clear that this Pokemon would not be on its hind legs, at least not most of the time, but that does make me a little bit nervous here. We're running Ember, Quick Attack, Rollout, and Mud Slap, so we don't have that Thunder Punch to lean on, nor do we get a stronger fire move until we get to Flame Wheel. So for this one, we're gonna need that Flame Wheel to have a decent chance. Now, it does appear that we also managed to get through Morty without going to the Lighthouse with this one, so we're gonna be able to gain some extra levels before the gym leaders if we need to, but I'm going to lead off by just going to the Rocket Hideout since I think this is the most efficient routing and will also gain us more levels than the Lighthouse. Now, of course, we could learn some stronger moves in order to try to get through that Chuck fight. I'm just really not sure how that's going to go. We're going to probably get through Pryce just fine given the fact that he doesn't use water type moves, so at least we resist his stab, but we're just going to have to be really careful in this one. So now at the final Rocket Executive, we're going in where I'm not sure if I want to go Rollout strats or Ember strats here, to be perfectly honest. I'm going to try Ember just because it is a same type move and should at least be reasonably strong against these Pokemon, and it takes 3 hits to knock out the Arbok. Now we get a level up and learn Flame Wheel though. I'm slapping this on immediately since it's a massive upgrade. Flame Wheel on the Murkrow will not get the one hitter, but we can just Quick Attack after that, and Gloom will go Flame Wheel, getting the nice easy victory. Flame Wheel could be a lifesaver in this section just due to the fact that it's going to do more damage even in neutral cases, which could be all that we actually end up needing, but we'll just have to see. Still, like other fire types, I'm going to come straight to Pryce's gym and just see if I can beat him. I think that this shouldn't be too bad, but let's see how it actually goes. So here against Pryce, I'm actually going to lead off with Rollout first against the Seal. It headbutts, but that's perfectly fine. We knock it out in 3 hits. Dugong's out next. Rollout's nice and built up. It's a nice easy 1-hit KO, and then Rollout destroys Piloswine, so we get through with no issues on Pryce. Rollout strats also are just completely OP there, given that even the Piloswine is neutrally affected by the move. By the time you get there, it's going to be nice and built up, so a lot of Pokemon can probably just lean on a Rollout strat to get through Pryce, if nothing else. These next 2 gyms, however, are not going to be easy for Rollout strats, so Jasmine should be not too bad with our Flame Wheels. I'm definitely going to take her on first, and then we're going to just have to see how Chuck goes. That Mint Berry might be important to try to avoid a Hypnosis. We'll just have to see. And now, because I don't expect Jasmine to be too hard, I'm actually going to go take her on before I take on the randos in Chuck's gym, just for slightly more efficient routing. So we'll simply deliver the Secret Potion and heal the Ampharos, and we're ready to go for that fight. So let's just see how good Flame Wheel is here with our Quilava. I think it's going to be just fine, assuming that we just one-shot everything other than maybe the Steelix. Steelix might be a 2-hitter. The first Magnemite does go down to a single Flame Wheel. Out comes Steelix. Flame Wheel, yeah, is going to be a 2-hit KO here. She's going to get a chance to Hyper Potion. It won't matter. We're still going to just knock her out the next turn. The Rock Throw didn't really do that much. And we get to the last Magnemite that is just an easy 1-hit KO as we get to level 34. And fortunately, that does give us more defense, so we should be better now in Chuck's gym. But let's see if we can get through that Poliwrath. I think we might need some flinch strats there. So I'm strongly leaning towards like a headbutt strat in order to get through. We'll see if it actually works though. First up though, we've got the Black Belt Bros. We're going to go the Flame Wheel. A critical hit is going to be a 2-hitter on the first Hitmonlee, so clearly not great, but we can't really go rollout strats here, so Flame Wheel I think is the play. He Fire Punches on us, the second of the Black Belt Brothers, so we're going to get through nice and easy just due to that, but this is still looking a little bit closer than the previous runs. So that brings us to Chucky Boy. Let's just see how he goes. Chuck, attempt number 1. He's going to lead off with the Primeape, of course. I'm going to try to go a rollout strat here. I just want to see what this will do. He misses Leer, so rollout is getting the chance to build up pretty nicely, and we do knock out the Primeape in 4 hits. Out comes the Poliwrath, and we immediately miss the rollout, so we didn't get to see what kind of range we would get there. It might be a situation where we just need a crit with rollout at that point and we can win. So I'm going to test this one more time just to see. Now, of course, the issue of rollout is that it is only 90% accurate, so we missed a rollout turn 1 here. So we're going to get to that Poliwrath on lower health, but we are faster only to miss a rollout again, so we don't even get to see the range. I just want to see the range. I don't expect that it's going to one-shot, but I'm just interested to see what kind of range we actually get once it gets built up. So here we finally hit the rollout, and it just misses the range to knock this Poliwrath out. It did 91 damage, but then it misses the Hypnosis, so we get a quick attack and win. Come on, Chuck, come on. Oh, he gave it to us with the rollout strat. Are you kidding me? So without even having to learn a new move, other than the Flame Wheel via level up, Quilava manages to get through this entire section. That's the thing about rollout. Rollout, while it's not necessarily the best move here, is at least decent. It's only, you know, normally resisted by these fighting types, so as long as it builds up enough, you can actually find a way through there. It also depends on Chucky Boy though. If he goes for dumb strategies like the Hypnosis, which wouldn't have affected us anyway, we had the Mint Berry, you can actually win that fight. Still not the most consistent Pokemon at this point, so I'm not sure if Claire is gonna be all that easy with our Quilava. We might need a lot more luck on that one. Still, we managed to get it to go. Let's check on our last Pokemon, Croconaw. And of course, Croconaw comes in already knowing Surf. It has Bite, Rage, Fury Cutter, basically running the same strat that we were running previously with our Feraligatr. So we're just going to see if the difference in stats is enough to really change any of these fights. And of course, Croconaw finishes out this episode's sweep of easy victories against the Rocket Hideout. So we've just got the final executive here. We're going to go for the Surf on the Arbok. It's going to be a 2-hit KO, but we knock it out nice and easy after a Leer. Gloom comes comes out next. We're going Bite strats here. Once again, Absorb will do decent damage, so we're gonna have to chip it down. It takes 4 hits this time to knock out that Gloom. And now the Murkrow. Surf is the only play here, I think. It is a 1-hit KO, and we've defeated the entire Rocket section. We've got to prevent our Croconaw from evolving at this point, since it's all the way now up to level 32 as we've completed this part of the game. So now I think the Rage strat will be more than enough to get through the Pryce gym, so let's just see how it goes. So Pryce attempt number 1, I'm just going Rage, and here Icy Wind or Headbutt I don't think really matter that much to us from the Seal, and we knock it out nice and easy. Out comes the Dugong. It is faster, but that's fine. It can just build up some rage for us. Once we finally hit, this looks to be a 2-hit KO. He rests, which isn't really a problem for us, and we're able to just easily knock that one out. Piloswine, we can switch to Surf since it's super effective, and he goes Mist. Good job for Pryce. So after the Hyper Potion, he's simply going down on the next turn. We easily win. No problems on that fight. Now, at least the Glacier badge does give us a badge boost in special attack, which will help our Surf be even stronger. That should help us get through Jasmine much easier. So it's really then just about Chucky Boy, which I think we're going to be fine. I think we're going to get through him without too much issue, but let's see how it actually goes. So I'm just going to retrieve the quick potion and now go back to Jasmine for this first one, just because I think the Jasmine fight's going to be way easier than Chuck himself, assuming that we just one-shot against those Magnemites, but let's see if we actually do. So Jasmine attempt number 1 right here. I'm not gonna worry about putting on any held items because this is really just all about this power of Surf. So attempt number 1, we go Surf on the Magnemite. It is a 1-hit KO. That brings out the second Magnemite. We use Surf yet again, getting the 1-hitter. Steelix is out next. Surf is just barely not a 1-hitter. She Hyper Potions after that, so with the Sunny Day, of course, we're going to do less damage as well, but it's just 3 hits to knock out even with the sun shining brightly. There's nothing the Steelix can do, and Jasmine has gone down on the first attempt. That, of course, gives us our badge boost in defense, so we'll be more survivable against some dynamic punches here when we get into Chuck's gym, which I think is the ideal for this Pokemon. So let's just see how it goes first against the Black Belt Bros. Let's see if we just easily knock these guys out. I'm going to go Rage here and just let him use something like Double Kick to build up my rage, and we can pretty easily knock out the Hitmonlee. Still, it might be a better play to just go Surf, given that his stab and it's already such high power, even with their higher special. Yeah, this looks to be a 2-hit KO, and Ice Punch won't do anything against us from the Hitmonchan, so we easily get through. I think we now have an easy path to the gym leader. So now going to Chuck, I think we just need to give a Mint Berry. I'm not at full health, but I'm very close. I think we just need to build up rage enough to get through this one. So let's see how it actually goes. Chuck attempt number 1 here. Rage on the Primeape. We're kind of hoping that it goes for Fury Swipes. It misses the Fury Swipes, unfortunately. Now it's going for Rage. So we're both going for the same strategy, but then it does use Fury Swipes to give us a couple boosts. We get to the Poliwrath where we do decent damage. We get a wake up from the Hypnosis thanks to that Mint Berry. And now it Mind Readers, but it doesn't matter. We simply win. Chuck never really stood a chance there. And with that victory, Croconaw completes the sweep for this episode. Kind of to be expected. Everything just managed to get through. So with that, episode 2 of the Jasmine Minimum Battles series is in the books. And so far it's a clean sweep, but as I mentioned last week, I think this makes sense for the first 2 episodes. Running medium slow Pokemon, most of them fire and water types, so they have good stab for this section of the game. And honestly, just with enough coverage to get through basically everything. Rage put in work here. We even saw some rollout strats work. So I kind of expected those Pokemon to do well. That being said, the next episode might be our actual chance to lose some Pokemon. We're going to be coming in with the entire Pidgey line: Raticate, Fearow, Furret, and Noctowl. Now, Noctowl should be fine based on the fact that it gets access to those Nightmare strats. I also expect the Raticate and Furret to be good because they're going to just get tons and tons of type coverage. it's really going to be getting down towards that Pidgey, where I think Pidgey's done. If I have to predict right now, because how are we going to get through Jasmine? Honestly, like, we're going to be sitting there spamming a bunch of mud slaps, but I don't think we're going to be getting any sort of good range on the Steelix. We just don't have any other moves to use there. So these flying types could find themselves in a serious issue. I'm not sure even Return will get them through that section. It's going to be very interesting to see, but place your predictions down below. I'm predicting that we could easily lose Pidgey and Pidgeotto next time, and even Pidgeot and Fearow I think are a little sus. We're just gonna have to see how it goes. We're definitely gonna be going to Chuck's gym first. Pryce is probably still easier than Jasmine. Jasmine might be the wall. Anyway, just place your predictions down below. I want to say massive thank you to everybody for supporting the channel. Once again, I'm getting much closer to my goal of being a full-time PokeTuber, and last month was the best month ever for the channel, so I really just can't thank you guys enough. Let's keep running this up. And one last thing that I'll announce today, of course, for the channel members who are going to be getting this episode earlier than everybody else, I will also be doing a members only live stream this coming Sunday, Japan time at 9 p.m. Check your local times. What is 9 p.m. Japan on Sunday? Your local time. We're going to be doing our Lucky Egg Chansey. We just did the Lucky Punch Chansey, but I want to come back and do a second Chansey run with that Gen 2 held item, because I'm really interested to see, with extra experience, just how high of a level do we get to with a fast level up Pokemon, even without giving it the counter strats that we did last time, because there will not be counter in this one. It still might end up being pretty darn good just on the basis of getting access to more levels. We'll have to see how that actually works out, but for now, that does it for this one. I'll see you in the next one. Later.